affected. So it's a gram-positive cocci, elongated, lancet shape, and it can be in chain or in pairs. It's alpha hemolytic, so which means that it's just a partial hemolysis, and it would grow best in 5% carbon dioxide. And so far, I haven't seen or I haven't tried growing Streptococcus pneumoniae sa candle jar. But if it's a gas pack, that would be better, and it would increase the yield of Streptococcus pneumoniae. And it requires source of catalyst like blood for growth. So this is alpha hemolysis. And this is lobar pneumonia. The entire middle lobe is affected. So very typical of a lobar pneumonia of Streptococcus, bless you, pneumoniae. So this one, the capsule, it's encapsulated. It can be visualized better by Quillang reaction. So you have to remember that if it's Streptococcus pneumoniae, it cannot cause infection if it's non-encapsulated. It cannot cause pneumonia if it's unencapsulated. Okay, unless the patient is immunocompromised. So that's why most of the contents of the vaccine, it's actually those strains that are encapsulated. The growth is inhibited by optogene and it's biosoluble. So these are the different virulence factors of Streptococcus pneumoniae. The number one would be, of course, the capsule. Second would be pneumococcal surface protein C, which is important for the adhesion of this organism, of this bacteria, to the airway epithelium. And it has also IgA1 protease, which will degrade the immunoglobulin or antibody that's found in the secretion. So that's why it can thrive in the airway, in the oral cavity sometimes, or in the upper and the lower respiratory tract infection, despite the presence of immunoglobulin. And again, the most important virulence factor would be the capsule, because again, if it's non-encapsulated, it cannot cause infection. Okay, so the diseases are the following: nasopharyngeal carriage, especially among children. Pneumonia, that's the most common invasive pneumococcal disease. And again, the pneumonia generally is lobar pneumonia. And the other diseases would be meningitis. I already mentioned earlier that if the organism is encapsulated, it can enter the central nervous system easily because the blood-brain barrier is lipophilic and the capsule contains lipids. So it would be easier for the organism to get entry to the central nervous system. So that's why when you look at the causes of meningitis, when you had your lecture in CNS, tapos na kayo CNS, no? Yeah. So, di ba, mga Streptococcus pneumoniae, Haemophilus influenzae, Neisseria meningitidis, Cryptococcus neoformans, Staphylococcus aureus can also cause meningitis because it is encapsulated. So, the drug of choice in the management, especially the antibiotic sensitive organism or strain, is penicillin G. But more often than not, when you rotate in the hospital, you would see that the antibiotic is third generation cephalosporin like ceftriaxone, cefotaxime, and of course, if there is pneumonia, especially moderate risk, it should be a combination because 15 to 20% of the time it's polymicrobial. There is not polymicrobial, but there is concomitant atypical bacteria that's causing pneumonia. So that's why we also need to add an extended macrolide like azithromycin or clarithromycin. So how do we vaccinate? There's polysaccharide protein conjugate vaccine. So every 5 years, so you have to check here kung tama ba yung every 5 years. And capsular polysaccharide vaccine. Now, pragmatic studies that was published in, I think that was October of 2022. There was a pragmatic study or real-world study showing us that if you vaccinate a person with PPSB, so that is polysaccharide, capsular polysaccharide vaccine, the PPSB, instead of creating antibodies or protection, you will develop tolerance. So that will become counterintuitive because the point of vaccination is we want to create antibodies, preformed antibodies, or readily available antibodies, so that if we get infected, then we have a readily available antibodies that would kill the organism. But what will happen if you will have that every 5 years vaccination? You will not develop antibodies, you will develop tolerance. So that's why every 5 years regimen of vaccination is already removed starting nung 2022 pa. So 3 years late na yung PPSB mo. So how do we mitigate that? Ideally, if you are vaccine naive for pneumococcal, pag vaccine naive ka, ang bakuna na matatanggap mo dapat is PCV20. Pag PCV20 yung tanggap mo, 1 dose and done. You don't need any booster. Isang bakuna lang, okay ka na. Pag PPSV23 ka, naka-receive ka na, tapos nag 1 year na, then pwede ka maka-receive ng PCV13 or PCV15 or PCV20. Okay? Kung naka-receive ka ng PCV13, di ka pa completely vaccinated. After 1 year, you need to receive PPSV23. If you are immunocompromised or the patient is immunocompromised, you can give the PPSV23 as early as 8 weeks after the PCV13 or PCV15. So in short, ang mas maganda na regimen, PCV20. Kung walang PCV20, PCV13 muna or PCV15. After 1 year, PPSV23. Kung immunocompromised or there's a plan to do chemo or whatever immunocompromising state or immunocompromising patient, then you can give the PPSV23 as early as 8 weeks after the dose of PCV13 or PCV15. Okay? So, ang binibigay ko sa clinic, PCV20 na para 1 dose and done. Okay? So, hindi yung every 5 years na buyahan, mali na yun. Wala na siya, kasi na siya, obsolete na yun na regimen. Panahon pa yun ng lumang bato. So, other measures would be influenza vaccine, smoking cessation. If you are a smoker, reflect on this, quit smoking, and you already know what are the repercussions of chronic smoking and nicotine addiction. And of course, controlling comorbidities like diabetes. Any question regarding Streptococcus pneumoniae, strep pneumoniae? Before we will proceed with HIT. None? Okay, let's go to Haemophilus influenzae. Why are you not asking questions? The previous batches, they usually raise their hand. They're asking a lot of questions. I am paid to answer your questions. Just in case that you are hesitant to ask questions, I am paid to answer your questions. So these are the different species of Haemophilus. We're just gonna discuss Haemophilus influenzae, especially the serotype B. So it's also known as Piper bacillus. It's a gram-negative pleomorphic coccobacilli, and it would stain faintly with safranin. It's fastidious, meaning it needs special environment or special agar, or it needs special nutrients so that it can grow. So it grows aerobically and anaerobically, and it needs hemin and NAD+, especially in aerobic growth requirements. So the agar medium that we're gonna use is chocolate agar plate, and it would appear encapsulated. And if it's encapsulated, it's bigger, mucoid, and glistening. If it's not encapsulated, smaller and granular. So there's also a satellite phenomenon. So there's abundance of growth of Haemophilus influenzae if in case you're going to plate it around a bacteria that produce the V factor like the Staphylococcus aureus. So magkakaroon siya ng satellite phenomenon if you plate it across an organism like Staphylococcus aureus that would produce the V factor. Okay, so Haemophilus influenzae is like the Streptococcus pneumoniae, wherein it can react with Quell-Lang, so it's positive with Quell-Lang reaction, and that the serotypes would be A, B, C, D, E, F, and it's the B that has the ribosyl ribitol phosphate capsular polysaccharide, and this is responsible for most of the infection in the pediatric and in adult population. So the transmission is airborne droplets, direct contact with secretions or fomites, and if the patient would have the pneumonia, the patient can have extra pulmonary complications like meningitis because it's also encapsulated, just like Streptococcus pneumoniae. Okay? So other diseases would be cellulitis, epiglottitis, and other extra pulmonary disease. How do we manage? Very easy to manage. We're just gonna give third generation cephalosporin like triaxone and cefotaxime. So how do we prevent? There's a vaccine to that, Haemophilus influenzae serotype B conjugate vaccine. The patient can, or the individual can receive as early as 2 months. Then booster can be given at around 12 to 15 months. And if the patient is exposed to Haemophilus influenzae patient with serotype B, and you are a close contact, you can actually receive chemoprophylaxis. But more often than not, we don't offer chemoprophylaxis. But if there's a need to give chemoprophylaxis, we give oral rifampin. Any question? We're done with Haemophilus influenzae. So Haemophilus influenzae, importante lang doon, ilang reaction siya. There's a capsule. It's a serotype B that's causing most of the infection. It can cross the blood-brain barrier. It can cause meningitis. And there are a lot of extrapulmonary infections like otitis media, cellulitis, and other infections. So let's go to Bordetella pertussis. So these are the different species of Bordetella, and we're just gonna discuss Bordetella pertussis. I think it was July this year, hindi pala, July last year, na nagkaroon ng outbreak ng Bordetella pertussis infection. So daming ganun na kaso last year. So pertussis means violent cough. That's the causative agent of whooping cough, and the Chinese name is 100-day cough. Kasi if you're not gonna give antibiotics, the patient will be having cough for 100 days, more or less. Okay, so that's why it's called a 100-day cough. So it has a bipolar metachromatic staining with toluidine blue, and it's also encapsulated, better visualized by special stain but not aquilum reaction. Highly sensitive to drying. So kapag nag-dry up yung secretions, namamatay yung organism and you'll not get the infection. So that's why the mode of transmission is droplet. What's the difference between droplet and airborne? No, it's not the size. It's not the size. So do not look at the size. No, it's not the distance. Those are just effect of the main difference. When we say droplet, pag ubo mo, lahat na nahulog sa floor, droplet yun. Kaya nga droplet kasi drop, magda-drop siya. Yung mag-sustain na suspend sa air, yun yung airborne. So, hindi clear ang difference ng droplet and airborne based on size. Some would say it's 10 micra, some would say it's 5 micra. So, ano siya, hindi constant yung difference. Tapos, when it comes to the distance, secondary lang yun siya. Kasi ang droplet, hanggang 2 meters lang. Kasi alam nga naman, uubo ka hanggang dun talaga sa whiteboard, sa dulo. Hindi naman. So, secondary lang siya. Kasi magda-drop siya within 2 meters. Ang airborne kasi, mag-stay siya or pwede siyang matangay ng hangin. Aside from that, another difference between droplet and airborne, kapag droplet, kapag wala na yung index patient sa room, hindi ka na mai-infect. Pero kung airborne, kahit na yung umubo ako, tas airborne yung infection, kahit aalis na ako sa room, pwede ka pa rin ma-infect kasi nag-float sa air yung organism. So, yun yung difference ng droplet and airborne. So I hope it was emphasized to you in the mode of transmission. Kasi kung hindi, there's something wrong about it. Importante yun, lalo na nag-pandemic tayo noong 2020, di ba? March 12, 2020, nag-start yung pandemic sa Philippines. Okay? Pero hindi yan lalabas sa exam, yung March 12. Okay. Hindi naman ako ganun ka-brutal. So I will be asking questions that would come out in the board exam, not questions that would just feed our ego. Hindi ganun dapat yung exams. Alam, sorry. Sorry ha. Erase off the record na lang. Which is true naman. Which is true. It should be something that would really measure your learning, and at the same time you can use that one in the board exam. Anyway, off the record na lang yun. Do not quote me please. So, these are the kinabahan ako, baka mapatanggal ako dito. Virulence factors are the following: pertussis toxin, filamentous hemagglutinin, pertactin, and fimbriae. Anyway, ito yung mga toxins. Pag mga na-discuss naman ang di ba, endotoxin and exotoxin. Sige, we will not dwell on that na. Okay. Anyway, so ito yung pertussis or whooping cough. Pag inuubo yung patient na may whooping cough, ano siya, bouts of cough, mga 7 to 10. Tapos biglang may bawi sa dulo. So narinig niyo na ba yung whooping cough or hindi pa? Search na lang say, basta tuloy-tuloy na ubo. Ganun siya. So anyway, ganun ang ubo. Diba? So tuloy-tuloy na ubo tapos may bawi sa dulo. Gaganyan siya. Oh, yun, ganun. Ganun. Okay? So, there are 3 stages. Dapat pala maglagay na lang ako ng video pa hindi nakakasiyat to. May 3 stages ng whooping cough or pertussis. We have there's catarrhal stage, paroxysmal stage, and convalescent stage. Ano ang importance of knowing the stages? It's actually the catarrhal phase or stage wherein the patient is most contagious. Paroxysmal phase, that's the time that there will be bursts of repetitive coughing terminated by whoop. Okay? Tapos convalescent phase would be less na yung less na ang severity ng coughing and going to yung patient, magiging okay na siya. So, if you will not give antibiotics, the patient will have the manifestations for like 100 days. So that's why in Chinese, it's 100-day cough. But if you're going to give medication, then you are actually shortening the duration of illness. And antibiotic, very easy. You're just gonna give azithromycin for 5 days and the patient will be okay. Azithromycin lang. So chemoprophylaxis for close contacts would be erythromycin, Estelate, and we don't generally use erythromycin na masakit sa tiyan. And prevention would be active immunization. So part siya ng DPT, kaya nung nag-outbreak ang whooping cough, pertussis, biglang naglabas na maraming bakuna ang DOH. So, para mabakunahan yung mga hindi nagpabakuna or yung mga parents na vaccine hesitant. Okay? Any question with whooping cough? We're done with whooping cough. None? Okay, let's go to Burkholderia pseudomallei. So, this is geographically restricted to Southeast Asia, like Thailand. And we also have these cases of Burkholderia pseudomallei here in the Philippines, but it's uncommon here in the Philippines. So I think parang 3 or 4 pa lang na Burkholderia pseudomallei yung nakita ko. So we don't usually see this one. In Thailand, it's relatively more common than here in the Philippines. It is a gram-negative with bipolar staining encapsulated motile facultative intracellular, so which means that it can get inside the macrophage without being killed. Just like tuberculosis, it's facultatively intracellular, and this is the causative agent of amyloidosis. So, this organism can grow at 40 degrees Celsius, so nag-fever yung patient dito, na instead, the fever would inhibit or impede the growth and proliferation of the bacteria. It actually promotes the growth of the bacteria kung mag-fever yung patient. And usually, it becomes disseminated and namamatay yung pasyente. The agar medium is the Ashdown's agar, and it would look like a cornflower head morphology, just like this one. So cute to look at, but it's so fatal. And the virulent factors are the capsule. So it aids in intracellular invasion. So it will get entry to the macrophages or the phagocytes, and inside the phagocytes, it would impede the fusion of the phagosome and lysosome, resulting to thriving inside the macrophage. What will it do there? Once it's inside the macrophage, it's actually a mechanism of evading the immune system of the host. And apart from that, it can multiply inside the cell. Okay, so this is a patient with acute pulmonary infection brought about by Burkholderia pseudomallei, and it can also present with skin ulceration, and it can disseminate all throughout the body. There might be affectation of the liver, the spleen, the intestine, the bone marrow can be affected in Burkholderia pseudomallei. How do we manage this? We have to prolong the antibiotic regimen. So we gave a 2-week intensive treatment with ceftazidime or carbapenem, followed by a 12-week consolidation phase with cotrimoxazole to prevent relapse. So it's a prolonged duration of treatment because medyo mahirap makontrol itong Burkholderia pseudomallei. Okay, we're done with Burkholderia pseudomallei. Any question? None? Pakunta na po ito. A typical bacteria, specifically Legionella pneumophila. So this one is the causative agent of Legionnaire's disease. And the natural habitat would be the aquatic bodies like lakes and streams. So that's why this infection is associated with air conditioning system and cruise ship. Okay, and this is also the atypical bacteria that can be acquired in the ICU. And the growth is amplified between 25 to 42 degrees Celsius, and this can be visualized by doing silver impregnation and direct fluorescent antibody method. And when you want to grow this organism, you have to use a buffer charcoal yeast extract, and it would appear like opal-like colonies just like this one. And very difficult to grow because this is a typical organism. So what do? We can do a urinary antigen test for Legionella pneumophila. If it turn out positive, then that's Legionella pneumophila. Anyway, we're not really testing for Legionella pneumophila or whatever atypical bacteria. So for epidemiologic studies, since 50 to 20% has concomitant atypical bacteria, so outrightly, we're just gonna cover it. Okay, just like gonorrhea, di ba? Hindi naman kayo sila nagka-gonorrhea. Yung mga pasyente nyo nagka-gonorrhea, we cannot say with certainty na wala siyang concomitant na Chlamydia trachomatis infection. So that's why aside from giving ceftriaxone, we also give the patient with doxycycline or azithromycin to cover for the Chlamydia trachomatis. Kahit na hindi naman natin sure kung may Chlamydia trachomatis or wala. Kasi atypical din siya. Parang ganun lang yung concept nun. Okay? So, how is it being transmitted? Aspiration of aerosolized material. So, what's the disease implicated? If it's pneumonia, we call that one as Legionnaire's disease. If it's an infection, like cough, fever, chills, and usually self-limited, kahit na hindi ka magbibigay ng antibiotic, magiging okay si patient. It would happen during outbreak or during epidemic, so we call that one as Pontiac fever. Okay? Kailangan ba ng antibiotic si Pontiac fever? Pwedeng walang antibiotic because that's self-limited. But if it's Legionnaire's disease, pneumonia, we need to give antibiotics. So the drug of choice is macrolide, extended macrolide like azithromycin, or we can offer quinolone. So that's why I told you earlier na easy to manage because part of the guidelines is if there's moderate risk pneumonia, automatic that we have to give extended macrolide in the treatment regimen. Pontiac fever, there's no need for antibiotics. How do we prevent? We can put copper-silver ionization of the water reservoir. Like the air conditioning system, pwedeng lagyan ng copper-silver ionization doon para hindi mag-grow yung bacteria. Kasi may antibacterial effect yung copper and silver ionization sa tubig. Any question? We're done with Legionella. Word exam correlate or exam correlate there. A typical organism acquired in the ICU. There's Legionnaire's disease where it needs antibiotic. There's also Pontiac fever which happened during outbreak or epidemic but it doesn't need an antibiotic at all. The drug of choice is extended macrolide like azithromycin, clarithromycin. You can also give quinolones. Any question? Okay, let's proceed with Mycoplasma pneumoniae. It's also known as Eaton's agent. It's highly pleomorphic because it doesn't have a rigid cell wall. And they are intrinsically resistant to beta-lactams just like Legionella pneumophila because they don't have cell wall. The effect of beta-lactam antibiotic is on the cell wall. Since they don't have cell wall, then they are inherently resistant to cell wall. This Mycoplasma pneumoniae is a common causative agent of walking pneumonia. Pag sinabi natin walking pneumonia, atypical bacteria yan siya. They have pneumonia, when you auscultate the patient, there's crackles. Sometimes the patient would have fever, but the patient is up and about. The patient can actually walk, go to the mall. So, ganun yung walking pneumonia. May pneumonia siya, pero up and about yung pasyente. And this one is can be a causative agent of walking pneumonia. Now, paano natin tatanungin sa pasyente kung possibly meron siyang the causative agent is Mycoplasma pneumoniae. Ito yung causative agent ng pneumonia na aside from the pulmonary symptoms, they would also have the extrapulmonary symptoms like abdominal pain, diarrhea, tapos ubo ng ubo, walking lang naman siya. So baka Mycoplasma pneumoniae. So i-explain mo lang kay patient, oh, you have walking pneumonia, and based on your presentation, it might be Mycoplasma pneumoniae because you have a lot of extrapulmonary manifestations. So the patient would be so scared because it's a walking pneumonia kasi nag-outbreak ng walking pneumonia last year. Tama? Or wala kayong pakialam sa news. Sige. So, busy kayo para pumasa sa first year, no? Okay lang yan, that's a valid excuse. So, anyway, nag-outbreak ng walking pneumonia, kaya ang daming nagpapa-check up. Same thing, nung namatay si Shansai, ang daming nagpabakuna nung February yata, ang daming nagpabakuna. Eh, wala pa namang bakuna nung February kasi ang bakuna for flu, so flu, hindi nyo kilala si Shansai? Sa Winter Garden. Winter Garden na siya, mga year 2000, 2001. Ulit na ng estudyante, kaya mananaw. Yung buang, yung mga estudyante. Kami sa una, may mga buang, kaya pagka squadron, mga awa na bigay. Mga tumisindahan, kaya mananaw TV. Kaya kung musakay may jeep, di naman may ka uli. Kaya ako, wala mo ko isang kailan no, kaya sa mababang paaralan ako na eskwela. So, pag umanong klase, kaya mananaw namin sa tindahan, magtapok ni dito, tanaw ka ng Meteor Garden. That was a long time ago, mga 2000, year 2000 yata, 2001. Tapos bigla-bigla, nag 9/11 attack, katong mga anthrax na, sino ba? Kaya kayo mga nakita po itong panahon na. So, lingaw lang po. Okay, so this one is Mycoplasma pneumoniae. When you grow this one in Eaton's agar, the appearance of the colony would be small, round, fried egg appearance. Ganito siya, para siyang fried egg. Ayan. Ito yung yolk and ito yung white ng egg. Okay? So that's Eaton's agent. So it has P1 adhesive protein and it also has NEC02 wherein that would produce a super antigen stimulating the cytokine storm so that there will be a lot of extrapulmonary manifestations. Okay, so this is the constipation of primary atypical pneumonia as I mentioned earlier, and the other manifestations would be extrapulmonary manifestations like hemolytic anemia, aplastic anemia, and cold agglutinin. Last August, I had a patient who presented with Guillain-Barré syndrome, and the presentation was actually sympathetic overdrive. Nagkaroon siya ng Takotsubo cardiomyopathy of the right ventricle. Tapos may ascending paralysis siya, but prior to that, nagkaroon siya ng ubo, and very typical of atypical pneumonia. Pero naging okay naman si patient, nag-resolve lang. The Takotsubo cardiomyopathy would just resolve if you resolve the sympathetic overdrive. So, hindi nga kami nag-IVIG or nag-flex plasma exchange. Wala kaming medication. Kasi in a matter of 2 to 3 days, nag-improve lang si patient. So, okay na siya and he live happily ever after. Kapauwi siya. Tapos, ayun, nangigaw na siya. Sabi niya, nung nag-follow up ko, nangigaw na daw siya. Okay, good for you. Sabi ko sa kanya. Pero nag-stop muna siya sa school. Gusto daw niya mag-me time. Ano talaga yung generation mo? May mga me time, may mga self-care. Oh, that's a good thing, ha? Mag-self-care kayo. Dapat may self-care. So if antibiotic is needed, we have to give extended macrolide. Okay? So that's Mycoplasma pneumoniae. A typical bacteria na maraming extrapulmonary manifestations. Okay, pwedeng mag-diarrhea, pwedeng mag-myalgia. Sometimes worse yung extrapulmonary manifestations like Guillain-Barré syndrome. Okay, and last atypical bacteria would be Chlamydophila pneumoniae or Chlamydia pneumoniae. Okay, so it's a non-motile, gram-negative obligate intracellular bacteria and it lacks peptidoglycan, it doesn't have cell wall. So, inherently resistant to beta-lactam antibiotics. There are two bodies, the elementary body and reticulate body. Elementary body, it's a small, dense, spherical body and that is the infectious form. E for elementary, E for infectious. Okay, so that is, I could have infectious, pero just pronounce it like letter E. So that you will not forget it. Elementary body, infectious. So of course, the other body is reticulate body that is found intracellularly and that is the replicating. Okay, elementary body, infectious. Reticulate body, intracellularly found and it's the replicating form of this bacteria. So, if you do GEMSA staining of the sample, you will see purple organism, and this is also the bacteria that has inclusion bodies. Like Chlamydia trachomatis, it has inclusion with glycogen matrix, while Sitachi pneumoniae, it doesn't stain with iodine stain. Ano yung chlamydia trachomatis? Yung mga trachoma yung sa mata, di ba? Chlamydia trachomatis and sexually transmitted infection. Chlamydia psittaci naman associated with parakeets. How will this be asked in the examination? Itong chlamydia psittaci, yung patient is a veterinarian or ang pasyente ay nag-aalaga siya ng mga parakeets or parrots, tapos biglang nag-pneumonia. What is the most likely causative agent? You answer chlamydia psittaci. Okay, psittacosis. And of course, chlamydia pneumoniae, which is the more common cause of atypical pneumonia. How do we culture this? Quite difficult to culture on artificial media. So that's why when you want really to culture chlamydia pneumoniae or chlamydophila pneumoniae, you have to use McCoy cells, or you can use yolk sac of embryonated egg. But commonly, we don't practice this one in our locality because we don't have this. We don't have viral culture in our locality. So what will be the more cost-effective thing to do? We're just gonna manage it. Give the antibiotic for atypical organism like azithro and clarithrol, and the patient will be okay. Okay? So these are the similarities and differences of chlamydia trachomatis, chlamydia pneumoniae, and chlamydia psittaci. Okay? So again, it's also a causative agent of walking pneumonia, and the management will be macrolides like azithromycin and clarithromycin. You can also offer respiratory fluoroquinolones like moxifloxacin, levofloxacin, and ciprofloxacin. Tetracycline, yes, you can offer. And what tetracycline? It's actually a tetracycline derivative, doxycycline. So in instances na yung mga patients natin, di ba, multi-comorbidities naman yung mga pasyente na elderly. So, minsan may pneumonia sila. And we want to cover for atypical organism. But the patient also has cardiac problem. Tapos, yung tinignan mo yung electrolytes, bagsak yung potassium, magnesium. So, it would prolong the QT interval. Maalala niyo sa cardiac tissue. Di ba, pwedeng mag-prolong yun pag may electrolyte abnormality. And if the the QT interval will prolong, the T-wave will prolong, anong part ba sa action potential ang maging relative refractory period? Di ba dun sa repolarization na part? Kasi during depolarization, absolute refractory period siya. So kung mag-prolong yung area na yun, it will prolong also the chance na pwedeng mag-arrhythmia. So yung mga patients na may mga electrolyte imbalance and cardiac problem, na supposedly we want to give extended macrolide, we cannot give extended macrolide because it can trigger arrhythmia. We cannot give fluoroquinolone because it can also trigger arrhythmia. So if that will be the case, how are we going to manage an atypical pneumonia? We give tetracycline derivative, and that is doxycycline, 100 mg capsule, 1 capsule twice a day for 7 days. Okay? So sa scenario, kapag may atypical pneumonia, tapos may cardiac problem, may electrolyte imbalance, may QT prolongation, high risk for arrhythmia, ano yung ibibigay mo na gamot that will cover for atypical bacteria? You answer doxycycline. Okay, do not answer quinolone or fluoroquinolone, do not answer macrolide. Okay, this one is chlamydia psittaci. I think I preempted you earlier that it's associated with birds like parakeets and poultry. So if the scenario will be dealing about birds, that's the patient, that's the job of the patient, then you consider or you answer chlamydia psittaci or psittacosis as the answer in the examination. Okay? So the drug of choice would be tetracycline or its derivative like doxycycline. Another atypical bacteria is Coxiella burnetii. Saan nyo ito narinig tong Coxiella burnetii? Sa yung Q fever, di ba? That's you also had a discussion in this one in the cardiovascular microbial agents, right? Because this is one of the causes, the rare cause of infective endocarditis that cannot test positive with blood culture. You need to have a antibody titer to diagnose infective endocarditis with Coxiella burnetii. So it has a worldwide distribution except New Zealand and Antarctica, and It survives in harsh environment because of the endospore-like structure, and it contains the superoxide dismutase that would adapt to the acidic phagolysosome, so which means that even if there is phagolysosome fusion, it can survive intracellularly because it would neutralize the hydrolytic enzymes by virtue of the presence of superoxide dismutase. So this Coxiella burnetii is actually a potential agent of bioterrorism. So when we say agent of bioterrorism, it doesn't mean that it's a lethal agent. It should be something that is that can be spread easily, and it can create unrest to the population. So yun yung primary na element ng agent of bioterrorism. Dapat something that would create unrest to the population. Like for instance, smallpox, pwede siyang maging agent of bioterrorism. Ano pa ba? Anthrax, pwede siyang makakreate kasi mabilis siyang Can you remember in 2001, yung mga powder sa snail mail? Di ba dati pag mag-ano ka, communicate snail mail pa man, wala email, wala Facebook. So, snail mail. So if you receive a mail na may powder or from unknown na source, dapat hindi mo siya buksan. So that was actually the parang in sa time na yon, kasi ngayon COVID-19, flu. So dati anthrax pa kami dati. So yun, pag may powder yan na inhale mo, so you need to have a post-exposure prophylaxis, otherwise you will die within 24 hours. So ganun yung yung anthrax sa dati. Okay, so that can be an agent of bioterrorism. Again, for it to become an agent of bioterrorism, it should create unrest to the population. So this Coxiella burnetii is a causative agent of Q fever, and if this is ingested, it can cause infectious hepatitis, and if it's inhaled, then it can cause pneumonia. And easy naman siya i-manage. You're just gonna give macrolide. So extended macrolide tetracycline or fluoroquinolone. For chronic Q fever, then the treatment would be doxycycline, plus you also give DMARDs, hydroxychloroquine, DMARDs, disease-modifying anti-rheumatic drug. Okay? Okay, how do we prevent? We can actually do vaccine. So sino yung binabakunahan natin? Yung mga animal abattoir workers or vaccine for animals. So kung hindi ka abattoir worker o hindi ka animal, so you don't need vaccine for Coxiella burnetii. Okay? Any question with the atypical bacteria before we will go to the more relatable organism, Mycobacterium tuberculosis and its cousins? My question? Sino na nagka-TB dito? You don't need to raise your hand kasi may stigma pa rin yung TB. Philippines is actually fourth in terms of TB burden worldwide, and that's not something that we have to be proud of. Number 4 tayo. Lakas natin, talo natin yung ibang countries.
Let's go.
Tapos tayo din yung number 1 na contributor ng plastic sa oceans.
Let's go. Philippines, we are proud.
Okay, so these are the different Mycobacterium. So it's divided into cultivable, like Mycobacterium leprae, because this is the bacteria that cannot grow in artificial media. You need the foot pads of mouse and the back of armadillo so that you can grow this Mycobacterium leprae. We also have here the typical Mycobacteria. Included in this classification would be the Mycobacterium tuberculosis complex. We have here the atypical Mycobacteria like Ansasii, Marinum, and down the line, Mycobacterium avium intracellularly complex can also be part of the atypical Mycobacteria. We have here the saprophytic Mycobacteria like mga uncut na male individuals, so pwede silang may Mycobacterium stigmatis, and skin ulcers like ulcerans and balnei. And we will not go into the details of this. We're just gonna focus on Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So this organism is obligate aerobic. So this is the reason why in pediatric population, it's more common in the middle lobe, because among pediatric individuals, the highest oxygen tension or the lung area with the highest oxygen tension is the middle lobe. On the other hand, for adult individuals, the zone that has the highest oxygen tension is actually the upper lobe and the apical portion. So that's why if there's tuberculosis, the commonly affected lobe would be the upper lobe or the apical lobe. And when you look at the check the X-ray, what's being mentioned there would be infiltrates in the apical area. So because that's the with the highest oxygen tension. How about in the intestine? Saan ba yung may pinakamataas na oxygen tension? Can you remember in anatomy, the portion with the most tributaries? Di ba yung mga artery sa intestine kahit parang mga tributaries? Alin doon yung may pinakamaraming tributaries na nag-dissect kayo? Anong ma-remember? Di-power through nyo lang yung anatomy. Dapat aralin nyo siya by heart para ma-remember nyo pa siya in the clinical. So ano yun? Yung may pinakamaraming tributaries. Di ba papunta doon sa cecum and sa ileum and ascending colon. So yun yung areas na sobrang dami. Ma-remember nyo, sobrang daming cross doon. Or hindi nyo i-appreciate. Sige. So yan yung highest oxygen tension. So what's the importance of knowing that that area has the highest oxygen tension? Since tuberculosis, Mycobacterium tuberculosis is obligate aerobe, you would expect that if there is gastrointestinal TB, it would commonly affect those area. So what will be the manifestation? Right lower quadrant pain. So it would mimic acute appendicitis. That's also the same reason why when I was still in training in SPMC, there will be a patient who comes at the emergency room with right lower quadrant pain, and it will be triaged to surgery, and the surgeon would perform appendectomy. Now, once the result of the biopsy is out, it would give us a result of multinucleated giant cells, chronic inflammation, histiocytosis, cacheating necrosis or caseous necrosis, which is typical of that of tuberculosis. If that will be the case, what will the surgeon do? The surgeon would refer the patient to us, and more often than not, those patients are actually HIV positive. They are the ones with those manifestations. So that's why when you go into surgery and there's a patient with right lower quadrant pain, you have to investigate if it's just an appendicitis or probably a GI TB and the patient has HIV. So if that happened when I was still there in SPMC, what do? We have to do contact tracing kung sino nag-operan, sino mga nurses na nag-assist. And we have to test, baka nahawa sila. So, importante na dapat maganda yung history taking. Okay? Yan. So, sa brain, saan ba may pinakamataas na oxygen tension sa brain? Can you remember in neuroanatomy? Guys, bakit wala kayong maalala? or hindi nyo siya na-appreciate dahil walang clinical correlation? Or, hindi ko alam ha. I know there are a lot of things that you need to study and memorize in first year, and that was the time na kailangan natin mag-survive para ma-promote to second year, di ba? Parang ano na yun eh. Parang life and death situation ng first year. Mahirap talaga ang first year kasi adjustment period. Ano maalala nyo? Sa maalala lang. Ano yun? Basta ito yung mukhang yung So, what part of the brain? In the interest of time, I will just answer. So, it's actually the basal ganglia. It has the highest oxygen tension. So that's why if the patient has, can you remember in CNS infection, microbial agents of the CNS infection, meningitis specifically. So if it's TB meningitis, ano yung triad sa CT scan? I used to be the lecturer for CNS, pero tinanggal sa akin. So ano yung triad? The triad is communicating hydrocephalus. Ano yung CT scan findings? Communicating hydrocephalus, there is, ano pa? There is microinfarctions because of vasculitic lesions and basal ganglia enhancement. Bakit enhance yung basal ganglia? Because that's the part of the brain with the highest oxygen tension, and most of the bacilli, the TB bacilli, would stay there. And when you do CT scan with contrast, it will light up. So that's why that's part of the triad for TB meningitis. Okay? Yan. So TB is facultatively intracellular. Bakit naka-thrive siya sa loob ng macrophage? So why is it that there is dissemination in tuberculosis? So for instance, I am the unsuspecting host that na may inubo. For instance, ako na lang may TB. Ako ang may TB, tapos siya yung individual. Tapos aerosolizing droplets nakuha niya. Pag inhale niya, papasok siya sa alveoli, i-engulf siya ng alveolar macrophage. Di ba when we talk about phagocytosis, pag ma-engulf yun, the organism will be contained within the phagosome, but it will not be killed yet. That phagosome should fuse with the lysosome, creating the phagolysosome. But this tuberculosis has actually an extra, meron siyang extra molecule na i-produce, and that is LAM, or the lipoarabinomannan. What will this lipoarabinomannan do? This LAM, or lipoarabinomannan, will prevent or inhibit fusion of phagosome and lysosome. So which means na kahit na naphagocytose yung TB bacilli, it will not be killed intracellularly because there will be no fusion of phagosome and lysosome because of the presence of lipoarabinomannan. So magstay siya doon. So what will be the effect? So that's why there's what we call latent TB infection. Kasi hindi naman siya mamamatay, magsistay lang siya. So bakit hindi siya lalabas sa macrophage? Kasi kung lalabas siya sa macrophage, ano mangyayari? It will be killed by the immune system of the host. So this patient will, or this bacilli is also intelligent. It will be waiting for the right time to proliferate. Kailan yun? Kapag mag-drop yung immune system. Like for instance, may diabetes, tapos biglang bumagsak yung immune system. So, immunocompromised yung patient. That's the most common cause of secondary immunocompromised state, uncontrolled diabetes. That's why mga diabetic patients, they would present with tuberculosis. Or 30% of the newly diagnosed TB patient also have diabetes. Or kung nag-HIV AIDS, pwede siyang mag-reactivate. Or nagbigay ka ng immunosuppressive drugs for some reason, pwede mag-reactivate. Apart from that, nasa loob siya ng macrophage. Itong mga macrophage can be used by this bacilli as the Trojan horse. Pwede siyang sasakay sa macrophage. Anong gagawin ng macrophage? Pwede magliliwaliw si macrophage, pupunta sa ibang bahagi ng katawan. So that's why it can be a reason for dissemination. Nagkakaroon ng hematogenous spread yung TB bacilli. That's why there are instances na yung pasyente, meron siyang biliary TB kasi ginamit niya yung macrophage as kabayo para makapunta siya sa iba't ibang bahagi ng katawan, resulting to disseminated tuberculosis. So yun yung kwento ni TB. So these are the attributes of Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It's actually slow grower. Unfortunately, we don't have TB culture here in Davao City. After nung nag-pandemic, because the TB laboratory was converted into a SARS-CoV-2 testing center sa SPMC. We used to have that TB culture, but tinanggal siya because of the pandemic. Of course, we need to prioritize. We need to have testing for COVID-19 para at least ma-detect natin, we can manage the patient properly. So, in exchange, tinanggal yung TB culture. So, if you want to have a TB culture, we have to send it to Manila. So, these are the culture media. So, we have here Lowenstein-Jensen medium and the Leffler's medium. And we also have this middle group biplate, the 7H10, 7H11 as other. So these organisms are quite resistant. It can remain viable in a droplet nuclei for 8 to 10 days because of its a thick na cell wall. So it's not vulnerable to drying. Okay? This is the mycobacterial structure. So you can see that there is mycolic acid, which is responsible for the acid fastness. This lipoarabinomannan is responsible for inhibition of fusion of the phagosome and lysosome. Okay? Yan. So, ito yung gram positive, gram negative. Ito yung AFP positive ng Mycobacterium cell wall. So, sa tatlo, alin dito ang pinaka-vulnerable sa antibiotic? Gram positive, gram negative, or etong cell wall? Gram positive, no? Kasi one layer lang. I think yung peptidoglycan, pero one layer. Unlike sa gram negative na meron siyang outer membrane that would impede the entry of common antibiotics. So, it has high lipid concentration in cell wall, which is impermeable to ordinary stings and dyes. So they are resistant to the usual antibiotics, and they are also intelligent because they can immediately create resistance trait to anti-tubercular drugs. So that's why when we manage patient with tuberculosis, with TB disease, we don't give it as monotherapy. Otherwise, if it's monotherapy, this organism can immediately create resistance trait to a specific anti-TB drugs. So, magkakaroon tayo ng MDR-TB. So, what would be the strategy? So, combination dapat. Just like Mycobacterium leprae or HIV. Nag-discuss na kayo ng HIV. Hindi pwedeng monotherapy, STI. Diba wala pa kayo ng STI? Okay, mas ano yun, mas interesting STI. Mas okay siya na topic kasi relatable siya sa mga patients, not you, sa mga patients kasi maraming patients na pupunta sa clinic because of sexually transmitted infection. If you go to Central Bank, di ba ang daming nakaabang dun? So pumunta pala kayo ng Central Bank. Pero it's a highway na dadaan ka doon. Ang dami talaga. Tapos sa Facebook, madami ding mga ganun na medyo ano na din sila, high-tech na din sila kasi Facebook na yung kalakaran. Anyway, kaya mas ano siya, mas relatable siya kasi maraming patients na pumupunta sa OPD because of that. Anyway, so mycolic acid, so exam correlate would be responsible for the acid fastness. Fourth factor is responsible for the granuloma formation. Initially, the granuloma is non-cacheating. So it doesn't mean that the biopsy result is non-cacheating. It doesn't mean that it's not TB. Initially, it's non-cacheating granuloma, but eventually, because of the chronic infection, that non-cacheating granuloma can be converted into cacheating. It's just that if it's cacheating granuloma or caseous necrosis, then it would mean that it's most likely tuberculosis. But if it's not cacheating granuloma, it can be other causes, but it can still be TB. Okay? Yan. Lipoarabinomannan, as I mentioned earlier, that's the one that would inhibit phagosome-lysosome fusion. And droplet nuclei, so there are different presentations of tuberculosis. So it can be no infiltrates on the lungs, but the patient would test positive to sputum, so the patient can have the infiltrates in the lungs. It can be extrapulmonary TB, it can be TB of the reproductive organ, TB of the GIT, the liver, it can be TB of the lymph nodes, the CNS, sometimes it can also involve the uterus, the cervix. So any body part can be affected in tuberculosis. But among the different types of TB, so if there is bacteriologically confirmed TB which tests positive to AFB staining or gene expert or culture, then it's more infectious compared to that of sputum negative. Because clinically there are two types of TB disease, bacteriologically confirmed and clinically diagnosed. And between the two, the bacteriologically confirmed is more infectious. On the other hand, in terms of type of TB disease, laryngeal TB and cavitary TB are the most infectious TB type. And if it's HIV positive, more often than not, non-infectious. Why? Because they would not create the cavitation and they would not elicit the usual immune response. So therefore, there's no cavitation, there's no infiltrates in the lungs for HIV positive patients. Okay? So these are the possible outcome of TB if not treated. So meaning, not giving treatment is actually a treatment. Parang ganon yung dictum. Kasi dati we don't have treatment for tuberculosis. That's why Manuel Quezon died because walang treatment sa TB. He died of tuberculosis in the US. Walang treatment dun nag-massive hemoptysis siya. So some of the patients, like 25% of patients infected with TB would have complete resolution because the immune system is able to contain the infection. Okay? So, pwedeng ganon. So, like for instance here, exposed, nakunan ka, pwede may clearance. If you get the infection, pwedeng mag-latent TB and mag-reactivate eventually or automatic magkakaroon ng primary TB. Okay? Just like sa mga bata. So, ito yung granuloma formation ng tuberculosis. So, the spread of organism in the host would depend on the following. So, the TB bacilli can spread by direct extension to lymphatics, to the lymph nodes. So, yun yung tinatawag na TB adenitis or yung old name kapag nandito sa leeg, old na eponym is scrofula. Okay? So, we don't use na scrofula nowadays. We just term it as TB adenitis. So, bloodstream involvement due to erosion of a vein and bacilli can be swallowed as well. So, pwedeng pupunta sa stomach and intestine, and also the bacilli can use the macrophage as a Trojan horse. Okay? So, these are the manifestations of TB. So, 4 lang ang cardinal manifestations of TB. So, ilan ang kailangan? You just need one You just need one cardinal manifestation and you work up the patient for tuberculosis. Should be at least 2 weeks na unexplained fever, at least 2 weeks na unexplained weight loss. Kung nag-Ozempic na, nagpayat, it's not an indication. Ibig sabihin, dapat unexplained weight loss. At least 2 weeks na night sweats and at least 2 weeks na cough. The cough can be productive or non-productive. So, ilan yung kailangan natin? 4. What if walang symptom yung pasyente? Asymptomatic. What are we gonna do? We need to do x-ray. Lahat ng Pinoy dapat i-x-ray. Kasi ang thrust ng Phil Step 2, starting nung June 25, and even before that, dapat active case finding. Ibig sabihin, lahat dapat i-screen. Tapos lahat ng family member, kunyari ako na may TB, lahat ng members sa household ko dapat actively screen for TB or latent TB infection. Okay? So if that will be the case, merong symptoms, at least one, anong gagawin? Kung symptomatic yung pasyente, anong next na step? What is the microbiologic screening test of choice? Gene Expert or Ultra. Okay? MTB-RIF, Gene Expert or Ultra. May role ba ang AFB? So kung walang, ganito ang hierarchy ng microbiologic testing. Ideally, dapat culture. Pero matagal ang culture. It will take 4 to 6 weeks bago lalabas yung result. Slow grower yung TB bacilli. 18 hours yung yung mag-divide, mag-mitosis. So, ang strongest evidence would be Gene Expert or Ultra. 99% sensitive, 99% specific. So, pag yun yung number 1. Kapag walang Gene Expert, ano yung second? Sputomicroscopy using, no, not AFB. Weakest ang, walang pinalaman ng Grapsig. Ano yun? Sputomicroscopy using LED, light emitting diode. Okay, yun yung pangalawa. And the weakest microbiologic screening is sputum AFB using the Ziehl-Neelsen method. So in terms of screening, MTB-RIF Gene Expert, followed by light emitting diode, sputum microscopy using light emitting diode, and lastly would be sputum microscopy using Ziehl-Neelsen method. Okay? So yun siya. How about kung may TB ako, tapos yung family members ay asymptomatic? Ano yung screening natin? Chest X-ray. Pag symptomatic, automatic sputum MTB-RIF Gene Expert. Pag asymptomatic, X-ray. Pag may makitang indication na TB, tapos ako bacteriologically confirmed index patient, automatic ititreat mo na for TB yung may mga findings sa X-ray. Kasi active case finding tayo para mabawasan yung TB burden. Kasi pang-apat tayo, nakakahiya. Okay, so these are the other manifestations of tuberculosis. So for pulmonary TB, there's what we call gon-focus and gon-complex. Is there a difference between the two? When we say gon-focus, that's just the lymphadenopathy. When we say complex, that's the lymphadenopathy plus involvement of the lung segment. Okay? So that's the difference between focus and complex. Kapag ito lang siya, gon-focus yan, lymphadenopathy. Pero kung kasama itong pleural reaction dito, so that is gon-complex. Okay? So, generally, if it's an adult type disease, it's usually a post-primary or reactivation. More often than not, there is tuberculosis primary disease or complex or infection during childhood and in adulthood because of immunocompromised state, probably a TM that's uncontrolled. So, it creates an environment that's good for proliferation of the TB bacilli. So, magre-reactivate na siya. So, this one is a patient with cavitary tuberculosis. Can you appreciate here that there is a circular or round structure here? This is not TB bacilli. What is this? That's actually Aspergillus flavus or fumigatus. This is Aspergilloma. And this is the source of bleeding. Kaya nag-hemoptysis yung may mga cavitary TB with Aspergilloma. So, yan. Pwedeng mag-bleed. Another is, yung mga patients na nagbi-bleed out because of TB, cavitary TB, na wala namang Aspergilloma, pwede silang mag-bleed because the blood vessel that's feeding that area na malapit sa cavitary TB would have an aneurysmal defect. And we call that aneurysm as Rasmussen's aneurysm. How are we going to manage this Rasmussen's aneurysm? We're just gonna give anti-TB medications. More often than not, there will be resolution of the aneurysmal defect. So this is Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and we do sputum microscopy using light-emitting diode. So, yan yung makikita natin, yung mga nag-light up dyan, TB bacilli. This one is acid-fast staining. So, ano nga yung strongest microbiologic screening test? GeneXpert or Ultra. Then followed by microscopy using light-emitting diode. And lastly would be acid-fast staining using Ziehl-Neelsen method. Okay? So, how many specimens should we do we need to submit? Just one specimen for MTB-RIF GeneXpert. For AFP staining, dalawang sputum specimen. And TB culture, it would be good if we do TB culture, especially kapag nag-GeneXpert ka, di ba, between GeneXpert and sputum AFB, mas mataas ang sensitivity ni GeneXpert compared to AFB. Kasi si AFB, 60% lang yung sensitivity, GeneXpert 99. What if, nag-consider ka na TB, nagpa-GeneXpert ka, nagpa-AFB at the same time, tapos, nag-positive sa AFB pero negative sa GeneXpert. So, ano yung iisipin mo? Baka yung AFB na nakita mo is non-tuberculous NTM, non-tuberculous mycobacterium. So, wala man tayong TB culture dito sa Davao. So, how do I diagnose NTM? Magpapa-GeneXpert ako and AFB. Pag mag-positive sa AFB, negative sa GeneXpert, most likely that's non-tuberculous mycobacterium. So, what will be my next step? I'll collect sample and send it for TB culture in Manila. So, ganun yung magiging flow. Now, meron bang role ang AFB staining ngayon? Meron pa ba? Kunyari, may GeneXpert, may AFB staining. May role ba ang AFB staining? Yes. When we want to monitor response to treatment, for instance, the patient is bacteriologically confirmed. So, in GeneXpert kasi, it's banking on genetic materials. Kahit napatay na yung organism, pwede pa rin mag-positive sa GeneXpert. Study shows that the GeneXpert can still be positive even up to 2 years after the treatment. Sometimes nga, magpa-positive pa yan kahit 5 years. But they said na kapag 2 years, yun yung cut-off. So which means if you want to monitor treatment response, do not request for GeneXpert after 2 months and after 5 months. What are we gonna request? AFB staining. What if in AFB staining, positive pa rin siya sa 5th month? What will be the next step? Magpapakulture tayo. Kasi baka yung nakita na AFB bacilli doon, acid-fast bacilli, are dead bacilli. So i-culture natin, which is the definitive. So pag culture natin, kung walang nag-grow, ibig sabihin, namatay lang yun ng mga bacilli. Kasi during the treatment, there's paradoxical worsening. Pag bigay mo ng anti-TB meds, mas dadami yung AFB na makikita sa plema. Possible yun. So that's paradoxical worsening. We can also do X-ray and CT scan, and typically the CT scan for TB would be 3 in a bud pattern. Ito, para siyang sanga ng kahoy, tapos may mga buds. So typical yan sa CT scan, long window CT scan of a patient with tuberculosis. So this one is a patient with TB, Cachectic granulomas of bronchus. This is an actual patient that I had last, I think that was February or January. Na-admit si patient for ACS, binigyan ng enoxaparin, tapos biglang nag-bleed because of the antiplatelet. So, bleed si patient. On CT scan, nag-arrest si patient. 4 times siya na-intubate, re-intubate because of the blood clot. Tapos na-revive. Buti na lang magaling yung IMD na student na kasabay ko sa DMSF. So, dalawa lang kami, IMD, ako, tatlo pala. Ako, yung IMD student, top 1 ng batch nila. Buti na lang siya yung nandun. And 1 resident. So, tatlo lang kami nagmam-manage kay patient kasi walang ibang tao. So, nag-arrest siya, nagsi-CPR ako, tapos yung IMD siya nagmo-monitor sa vitals, bigay ng epi, while nagre-intubate, re-intubate 4 times ang resident. Kasi every time mag-intubate siya, mag-bleed, tapos mag-blood clot, so mag-obstruct na naman, tanggalan naman ng tube, re-intubate, nakaubos ata kami 4. So, namatay siya on the 4th. Nag-arrest siya, but nag-ROSC lang naman within 5 minutes. Then after nun, we transferred the patient to ICU and I did bronchoscopy sa ICU. Ito yung nakita, Cachectic granuloma. So, caseous necrosis siya. So, akala ko cancer kasi sa CT scan, bukol. Pero nung tiningnan, caseous necrosis. So, parang nabuhayan na ako ng so hindi to stage 4 cancer, baka to TB. And true enough, nung nagpa-frozen section biopsy, ang lumabas ay multinucleated giant cells with cascading granuloma. So TB lang pala siya. Tapos, the patient now is okay. Nagpa-opera na ng cataract because of diabetes and alagang eating, nag-garden-garden na dun sa bahay nila. So, that's a different league of fulfillment ba na mabuhi pa dahil siya, no? Pwede pa dahil siya mabuhi. Basta nasa, right situation, gani. May nalang yun kay Brian po itong IMD, yung uptick, kahit naman kayo IMD nga, dili kayo uptick, no? Pero, kato siya, may nalang yun na, timingan yun na uptick. Siya ko na naka-pick up na dropping ang heart rate. Siya nagsugi sa kuha, busy man ko na nag-aayos sa vitals, nag-BP ko, tapos siya na, Doc, the heart rate is dropping from 130, it's now 80. Okay, at 30, just tell me if it's 30, so I'll start chest compression. Pag yung 30 na chest compression ako, kuha na siya epi. So, nabuhay ko dyan. Uptick siya, may kung pabugo-bugo pa lang ito. Ginoon ko. Matay ko siya. So, ano ang lesson doon? Kailangan na ito mag-study. Hindi kita pa magpabugo-bugo para makasave. I mean, we don't need to be so intelligent. We need to be hard workers siguro. Kanang magbasa yun. Dili yung pagpakapoy-kapoy. Dili sige mo na, unya na lang, mag-tiktok sa ako. Mo ato sa coffee shop, kay mag-picture-picture, kay nag-study ko no, pero nabasa, kay one paragraph ra. Pero pag-post, kay kayo, mura yung nag-study maayo, dapat dili na to. Dili lang siya nga for the sake of posting in social media. Dapat in actuality, nandoon yun. Okay? Ako ay kagasto sa coffee shop niya, nabagsak tayo sa quiz. So, dapat reflected food, nanigasto ka, nagkaon ka, kay self-care pa na, nag-inom ka coffee, alami, di ba? Tapos nagtuon ka, self-care man po na, for yourself, me time man na mo. So, dapat, mo reflect mo tuon. Unless na lang, lisod yun kayo ang exam ka nang somehow bordering unfair exam na siya pa. So, wala yun tayo mabuhan na lang. Okay, so multinucleated giant cells. PPD, tuberculin skin testing. Do we do this in the clinic? Yes, we do this. So, ano yung current na guidelines about PPD skin test? If the patient is less than 5 years old, PPD skin test ang pang-diagnose ng latent TB infection. If the patient is 5 years old and up, the primary diagnostic test to diagnose latent TB infection. We're talking about infection not TB disease. Ibig sabihin ng latent TB infection, walang symptoms, walang radiographic evidence, walang biopsy evidence of TB, nag-positive lang siya sa ganitong test. So, 5 and up, TB IGRA, interferon gamma release assay. So, yun yung better. But mahal ang TB IGRA. 7,000 ang TB IGRA. So PPD mura lang, 1,500. So do I use PPD to diagnose LTBI? Yes. Gumagamit pa rin ako ng PPD. So ano yung magiging cut-off ng PPD? 10 millimeters mercury. 10 millimeters. At least 10 millimeters for patients na nasa highly endemic country like the Philippines. So our cut-off natin sa Philippines, 10 millimeters. If the patient is immunocompromised, yan yung generality, immunocompromised, or may X-ray findings na consistent of TB like may fibrosis and you're not sure whether this is TB or COVID-19. Kasi ang COVID-19 na post-infection na state na COVID-19, may mga fibrosis din. So if you're not sure whether it's TB or COVID-19, pwede ka mag-PPD. What will be the cutoff? 5 millimeters. CKD, liver disease, immunocompromised state, anergic patient, HIV positive, yun, mga yun sila, 5 millimeters, or organ transplant. So anything na immunocompromised, 5. But if the patient is living in a non-endemic area like US, the cutoff will be 15 millimeters. But for Filipinos, automatic 10 millimeters yan. So what are we gonna put? Anong i-inject natin? Yung PPD, yung tuberculin. Then, gagawa tayo ng wheel. Then, ano yung positive na lesion? Induration. So which means, ang i-measure natin, so cut off with 5, 10, and 15 millimeters would be the induration. Not the erythema. Dapat yung induration. Okay? So this is what I've been telling you earlier, interferon gamma release assay. Kapag less than 5 years old and below, PPD ang pwede kasi TB IGRA is not validated among those less than or 5 years old and below. So, TB IGRA ang mas maganda kapag more than 5. Although we can still use PPD. What is the guidelines here in the Philippines? You can use either. Kasi mahal ang TB IGRA, kaya may role pa rin ang PPD in diagnosing LTBI here in the Philippines. So, how are we managing tuberculosis? Intensive phase and maintenance phase. Intensive phase, we give 4-in-1. Isoniazid, rifampicin, pyrazinamide, ethambutol for 2 months. If it's severe TB, like TB of the brain or CNS and joints and TB of the bones, so prolong yung magiging maintenance phase natin doon. So pag mga usual TB, 2 months intensive, 4 months maintenance. Pag CNS TB, TB of the bones or joints, ang maintenance phase natin is 10 months. Okay? So, I'm just showing this to you na ito yung current na treatment management, but currently, we're already changing the guidelines. Kasi may mga shorter na duration ng TB treatment, 2 months lang, 4 months lang. But different na yung gamot na gagamitin. Gagamit na tayo ng oral linezolid, moxifloxacin, and the other anti-TB drugs. So, either tomorrow tuloy, either next year or early 2 years from now, ma-release po. Hopefully, next year, ma-release na yung bagong guidelines. Ginagawa na yung guidelines. So, hopefully, ma-release na siya. So, I will update you kung ma-release na. So, do we need to memorize the dosing of FDC or fixed dose combination treatment for TB? Madali lang naman itong i-memorize. Kailangan yung i-memorize for the board exam. Kasi, ang board exam kasi, the thrust of board exam is actually to create GP, general practitioner, not a microbiologist, not an internist, not a pediatrician, not a surgeon, GP. And being a GP, you should be adept in managing tuberculosis kasi we are fourth in terms of endemicity or TB burden. So, paano siya i-memorize? Pag ang timbang ay 25 to 37, 2 tablets FDC. Pag 38 to 54, 3 tablets. Pag 55 to 74 tablets, more than 75 tablets. Very easy to memorize. Okay? So, how do we diagnose MDR-TB? MDR-TB is resistance to isoniazid and rifampicin. Dapat dalawa. Isoniazid and rifampicin. When we say XDR-TB, that's MDR-TB definition plus resistance to a second-line anti-TB drug including injectable like capreomycin, kanamycin, streptomycin, IV aminoglycoside, amikacin. So yun, yung XDR-TB. May role ba ang surgery in the management of tuberculosis? Yes. Lalo na kung isang lobe ng lungs, punong-puno ng MDR-TB, and you're giving the medication and slow yung improvement, what we can do is just remove the area na may cavitation with a lot of TB bacilli. That way, we decrease the TB burden or the infectious burden of the patient. So, mas maganda ang outcome pag tatanggalin natin yung area na kung saan sobrang dami ng TB bacilli. How do we prevent? Prevention is chemoprophylaxis for latent TB infection. So I think sa libro nyo, ang nakalagay na latent TB infection chemoprophylaxis is isoniazid for 6 to 9 months. But currently, nag-change na siya. I did a meta-analysis on that, and I found out na for 12 years old and up, the best latent TB infection chemoprophylaxis is a short-term combination treatment. So it can be isoniazid rifampicin for once a day for 3 months, or isoniazid plus rifapentin once weekly for 3 months. So better ang outcome, maganda ang adherence, and at the same time, mas maganda ang success rate. So it's not yet written in your book as a first-line treatment, but come the guidelines would be, lalabas na siya either this year or early next year. Mababago na yan. Okay? BCG. Sino yung na-BCG dito? Lahat naman siguro na BCG. Yung mga pinanganak sa US, walang BCG vaccine yan. Yung mga dual citizen dito, meron ba tayong dual citizen? So wala yan. Okay, so let's go to viral agents. So we're almost done. Viral agents na tayo. So we're gonna discuss RSV, influenza virus, and coronavirus. So I'm planning to finish everything this morning. So if I encroach 5 minutes of your time, I think maganda siya rather than going back here at 5 to 6 p.m. Di ba? Sino bang gustong bumalik? Babalik? Gusto niyo pa bumalik dito? No. Ako din, ayoko. Magra-rounds pa ako. So, mag-clinic din ako mamayang 6. So, RSV, influenza, and corona. Sino na nag-coronavirus infection dito? COVID-19? Wala. Ako, nagka-COVID ako. After my training, kung saan pa ako natapos sa training, saka ako nagka-Omicron. Tapos during the Alpha, the Delta, lahat ng variants na lethal, by God's grace, hindi ako nagka-COVID-19. Kasi maganda naman yung mga PPE during that time. Maganda yung binili ng, not to patronize the government during that time, but maganda yung binili ng mga PPE during that time. So, na-infect ako after na my training. Kayo, nagka-COVID pa kayo? Hindi. Okay. Na-oxygen ka? Wala. So, pero vaccinated ka or anti-vaxxer? Vaccinated naman. Vaccinated. Okay. I had my vaccination. The first time that, just to, kwento lang konti. I had my vaccination and, Sinovac yung first. Then after 5 minutes, nag-anaphylactic shock ako sa Sinovac. I almost died. So, nagpapakuna, biglang hingal, bagsak yung SATS, tapos nafe-feel ko na nagpapalpitate na ako, tapos may mga skip beats na ako na nafe-feel. So, punta akong infirmary, bagsak, di na makuha yung SATS. Tapos, sabi nila, i-intubate daw nila ako. Sabi ko, huwag niyo akong i-intubate, huwag niyo ako sa high flow, bigyan niyo ako ng epinephrine. So, yung check ako, nagpanik sa sarili ko. Tapos, with the epinephrine, nag-okay yung heart, nawala na yung mga arrhythmia and TBC, tapos okay na yung breathing. So, na-admit ako sa ICU for several days. Then, naging okay na, nakauwi na. Then, gusto ko talaga magpabakuna kasi I'm a believer of vaccine. Nagpabakuna ako ng Moderna. Nag-anaphylactic shock na naman ako sa Moderna. So, admit na naman ako sa ICU. So, ayun, the third time na binakunahan ako, nag-meet ako sa ICU, doon ako binakunahan with defibrillator. Pero nag-sign ako ng waiver. Then, nung booster dose na, half dose naman ang booster. So, nung pagbakuna sa akin, walang anaphylaxis. Konti lang kasi half dose lang. So, ano yung flashing, erythema, tapos pruritus all over the body, tapos walang hingal, walang anything. So, completely vaccinated ako with booster pa, with booster. So, it means I'm really a believer of vaccine. I really believe on vaccine. Pero binigyan ako ng choice na pwedeng hindi magpapakuna kasi nga nag-anaphylaxis. I'm the first Filipino who had a anaphylactic shock to vaccine. Kasi nung first na pagbigay ng bakuna, ako yung mga pabibo kami dun sa PGH. Kami yung nag-una-una ng papakuna na nag-anaphylaxis lagi. Pero nauna ba yung bakuna tong mga politicians, di ba? Like si Harry Roque, una siya nagpakuna, upat na siya nagpakuna, na nag-COVID po siya. Sayang siya, no? Taga-UP ba siya? Nasayangan ko siya.
True. Ay, attorney. Doktor.
Taga-UP siya, UP.
Attorney Lloyd.
Sayang.
Diyan yan sa PGH,
Anyway,
madami
so much with politics. Dito na tayo sa etiologic agents. RSV. So RSV is a paramyxoviridae virus. The transmission is respiratory droplets and direct contact. And reinfection is possible, but if you are infected, because may dalawang strains ng RSV. So, pag ma-infect ka, the second time around, milder na siya. But you can get vaccine for RSV. So, it can cause lower respiratory tract infection that is severe among elderly and pediatric population. Kaya, mas maganda ibigay ang RSV vaccine sa mga elderly. Lalo na yung may mga comorbidities like mga unstable cardiac problem, diabetes, COPD, bronchial asthma, bronchiectasis, bronchiolitis, or interstitial lung disease, pwede tindigan ng RSV. Kaya lang mahal siya. Yan yung limiting factor. 13,000 yung bakuna. So kung siya yung papakuna sa room, sa clinic, pwede. Pag mga students, pag mga ganun, doctors, di man ko nagdagdag. ano.
Selenitis.
Oo. Pero, do not get the vaccine kung wala kang indication na. Like pneumococcal, wala kang indication for pneumococcal vaccine. Bakit ka nagpa-pneumococcal?
Internship.
Talaga? Requirement? Ang sa guidelines, 50 years old and up, or pediatric, ang pneumococcal. You are indicated to receive the vaccine less than 50 years old if you have comorbidities, like you have diabetes, cardiac problem, liver disease, you are on dialysis with bronchial asthma, with COPD, you are a smoker. If you are none of the choices, then hindi strong ang indication mo for vaccination. Might be more harm than benefit.
Oh.
For internship, kaya ma-expose mo sana yung mga pneumonia. Okay. Sige. Flu vaccine noon, dapat annual. Then the cytopathic effect of RSV is multinucleated giant cells or syncytia due to fusion protein. So this is the immunization for RSV. So 50 years old and up. Ang RSV sa Philippines, I think the indication is 60 years old and up. For pneumococcal vaccine, 50 years old and up, regardless kung may comorbidities or wala. Of course, babies should be vaccinated. Dalawa ang brands ng RSV vaccine ay may GSK tayo and may Pfizer. Alin na brand ang pwede sa buntis? Yung Pfizer. Yung sa GSK hindi pwede sa pregnant individuals. Walang study na safe siya for pregnant individuals. Influenza, sino yung nagka-flu ngayon? Or last month? It's okay, hindi man to, wala mang stigma ang flu. Minsan nga, in ka sa, sa trend na nagka-flu ka. Wala namang stigma ang flu. Well, vaccinated kayo or not? If you look at it as a whole, in retrospect, mas cost effective kung nagpabakuna ka. Mura lang ang bakuna sa flu, 1,500, 1,000, depending on the brand. Tapos rather than magkasakit ka, tapos dili ka ka-study o tarong. So I think vaccination it's a good investment. So there are three types of influenza. Influenza type A, B, and C. And for type A, it can be differentiated according to the envelope glycoprotein. So, pwede siyang hemagglutinin 1, uraminidase 2, or ganun. So, it depends on the combination. So, among the different influenzas, influenza type A lang ang pwedeng magka-cause ng pandemic. Kasi, isa sa attribute ng influenza A is it can infect animals. And the animals are actually the mixing bowl. Like for instance, yung influenza A na nag-infect sa human, tapos biglang nahawa mo yung baboy mo. So, yung sa baboy, sa loob ng katawan ng baboy, pwedeng mag-mutate yung virus. Then after the mutation, pwede niyang mapasa sa ibang individual, creating now a new strain, probably, of influenza A. And that can result to initially as an epidemic and eventually it can result to pandemic. So influenza A lang. Si B at saka si C hindi siya makakos ng pandemic kasi hindi niya ma-affect yung mga animals. And again, animals are actually the mixing bowl. Pwedeng yung mga birds can be the mixing bowl, pwede yung other primates ang mixing bowl. Okay? So there's what we call antigenic drift and antigenic shift. So ano ibig sabihin ng antigenic drift? In antigenic drift, there's just minor changes to the immunogenic part of the virus. So if it's just minor changes, so that's just drift. And ano yung magiging effect niya? Just an outbreak or outbreak or epidemic or non-sustained infection in the community. On the other hand, kapag shifting siya, antigenic shifting, it becomes a new virus because the immunogenic portion becomes a new immunogenic portion. So, which means the host person or individual can no longer identify the newly formed shifted virus. So, parang ang analogy ko lang dyan, like bumagsak ka sa course mo nung college, so nag-drift ka lang, pero same pa rin yung kurso mo. Like for instance, nursing ka, bumagsak ka, o na-delay ka lang, pero nurse ka pa rin, so drifting lang yun. Ang shifting, bumagsak ka sa nursing, nag-culinary ka after, so ibang-iba na yung course mo, so shifting yun. So parang ganun lang yung analogy ko, para ma-remember nyo ito sa quiz or sa examination. Okay? Pag panibagong virus, shifting. Pag a little bit of a change, but identified pa rin siya as such as the same virus, so that is drifting. Okay? So again, sa influenza A, B, and C, it's only A that can cause pandemic because that's the one that can infect animals wherein the animals can serve as the mixing bowl of the genetic materials. Okay? So, like AH1N1 or H5N1, so avian flu, bird flu, so yan, may mga swine flu,
Sa karatbayo.
yan. Okay? So what's the the complication is staphylococcal pneumonia and Ray's syndrome. Can you remember Ray's syndrome? Ano yung Ray's syndrome? Maalala nyo? Hindi. Ray's syndrome is actually acute fulminant liver injury or acute liver failure among pediatric individuals with viral infection, and you give aspirin as antipyretic. In the 1980s to early 1990s, the content of Aspilet is aspirin as antipyretic. And during that time, post-marketing surveillance, they see a lot of patients with viral infection resulting to acute liver failure. And they found out that there's association between aspirin as antipyretic and viral infection. So that's why all the Aspilet containing aspirin as antipyretic was pulled out in the market and it was changed to paracetamol. So dati, nung time namin, aspirin pa yung tinitake namin. But currently, yung mga Aspilet, paracetamol na lang siya. Kasi because of this Ray's syndrome. Okay? Now, influenza vaccination. Ang Philippines, nasa ba tayo? Northern Hemisphere or Southern Hemisphere? Northern. But ang Northern natin, malapit tayo sa equator. So, and tapos tropical country tayo. So, ang season ng flu natin is from June to November. Sometimes it can encroach to December to January. But basically, it's more of June to November. So that's why vaccination for influenza should start on May. Kasi gagawa pa ng bakuna yan October, November, December, October, November, kukuha pa yan ng mga genetic materials ng mga circulating flu virus. So, after nyan, gagawa ng bakuna, test pa yan, na-safe siya, FDA approval. So, maa-approve yan ng April dito sa Philippines. Then, darating yan dito sa country natin, Manila, ng 4th week ng April. Kaya mag-start yung vaccination May. Bakit kailangan magbakuna ng May in preparation for the flu season? Flu season starts on June. Okay? June to November. So, kung magpapa-flu vaccine, dapat May pa lang magpapakuna na para ma-maximize natin. Okay? So, that's the best time to vaccinate, a month prior to the flu season. So, can we still vaccinate kahit na nag-start na yung flu season? Yes, we call that one as late vaccination. So, we can continue even beyond the season for vaccination. Okay? Coronavirus. Sino na yung mga nagka-COVID dito? May nagka-COVID, no? Tama. So, coronavirus is has petal-shaped spikes producing crown-like structure, and the viruses are SARS-CoV, MERS-CoV, and SARS-CoV-2. Itong SARS-CoV, ito yung SARS ng early 2000 na nag-community lockdown, pero hindi naman sustain. After several months, nag-lift lang din yung community lockdown. We thought nga na the same lang ng SARS ang SARS-CoV-2. Kala namin 2 weeks lang kasi ganun lang yung lockdown during those times. Yung MERS-CoV naman, kagandahan ng MERS-CoV, walang sustained human-to-human transmission. So, more of zoonotic siya. Iinom ka ng ihi ng camel, then you'll get the MERS-CoV. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Yun yung reason. Umiinom sila ng ihi ng camel, or they eat the meat ng camel, or sometimes they have sexual intercourse with camel, and they get. That's that's not coming from me. That's coming from the book and CDC. So, yun, pwede niyang ma-infect. Pwede makuha yung MERS-CoV. Kaya hindi sustain yung pandemic ng MERS-CoV because walang human-to-human transmission. Unlike itong SARS-CoV-2 na sobrang lala ng transmission. So, comparing SARS-CoV and SARS-CoV-2, which one is more infectious? It's actually SARS-CoV-2. But which one is more lethal? It's actually SARS. Okay, SARS-CoV or SARS, yung early 2000. Alin dito ang pinaka-lethal? MERS-CoV. So, 30% ang fatality rate. Pero may human-to-human transmission, wala. Buti na lang, walang human-to-human transmission. Otherwise, it will wipe out 50% of the entire population around the world kung may human-to-human transmission. Okay?